my precious little dragons, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me today. Alright, as you can probably tell by the title, today's video is going to be slightly different. Slightly. I am going to be doing a book, look, and cook on the book Clever Cooks, a ready mix of stories, recipes, and riddles by Eline Greene. So this is a book, as you can probably tell by its wear and tear, that I have had since I was a kid. Might have belonged to my mom before that, not sure. I literally have no idea where this book came from. It has just been in my collection for years. And the reason I decided to review it today, it's very small. As you can probably tell by the title, it has recipes in it. And I just think it's interesting. And this is something I read all the time as a kid, like even before I started baking. So basically it's a collection of folk tales, fables, myths from all around the world. I say all around the world. Mostly Europe. Yeah, mostly Europe. There's a few others. The author who collected and edited the stories would take the recipes that are mentioned in the fables and then list these recipes. So I have actually never tried any of the recipes from this book before, so I'm going to do my normal book look, but I'm actually not going to show it on camera. I'm just gonna like snap and have makeup because editing is fun. So I'm going to kind of give you my review of the book at the beginning, and then at the end I will tell you if the recipes, in addition to the stories, are worth it. Because I always really enjoyed reading this as a kid. You can read it in an hour. Basically, it's got riddles. It's just kind of fun. It's very much aimed at kids, people who are kind of new to baking, and it's got kind of a wide variety of different recipes you can make. There's Carefree butter cookies, Griddle Bread, marzipan, roast chicken, molasses milkshake. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in here. It's not like just desserts. There's a weird amount of stuff that uses mashed potatoes. It tells you how to make butter. I might try making butter. We shall see what I feel like when I get down to the kitchen. But I just think it's a lot of fun. I don't think it's still in print, but I did see it on like thrift books and Amazon that you can buy used. So if you're interested in picking it up, or maybe you can get it through the library. But also as I cook, I will show the recipes that I'm doing. So if you want to try out some of the ones that I'm doing, feel free. That's pretty much all I have to say. I think my favorite stories in here, I really love, there's The Old Woman Who Lost Her Dumpling, which is like a Japanese folk tale about this like old woman and she outsmarts the Oni, which are the ogre demons. And then Pinto Small Toe is interesting. It's an interesting one. And then having some Irish heritage, I love all the stories of Finn the Giant. So there's a story in here that focuses on his wife Unach. I think that's how you say her name. Irish heritage does not mean I can pronounce names correctly. But there's a story in there of her outsmarting Finn's enemy, which is kind of fun. So when we get down, I will go through some of the stories and some of the recipes as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to kind of snap my makeup. So I am going to use a little bit of the Too Faced chocolate bar because it seems like it fits, and also the Too Faced Gingerbread Girl lipstick. I wish I had some of the like Beauty Bakery products because that would totally fit this look. But unfortunately I do not, and I'm not really buying a ton of new makeup at the moment. So I'm just going to kind of hopefully get kind of a warm, homey, baked good, inspired makeup look in 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, I am back. Here is the final look, but not the final part of the video. It ended up being a lot of Too Faced, but they just have lots of cute food-themed packaging. What else was I gonna do with a baking-themed look? I did also use some Juvia's Place. My makeup is actually fairly light. I didn't use a ton. I didn't even use foundation. Sorry, I'm just like showcasing random products. Anyway, that's beside the point. My makeup is fairly light. My hair is up because we were about ready to go to the kitchen, but I'm ready to have some fun. I mean, honestly, this book is it's just got some cool recipes that I've always wanted to try and never have. So I may not be able to get to all of them today, so I may randomly like switch outfits and have no makeup on halfway through the video, but that's okay. So, and that means also my final thoughts on like the recipes may also have a different look, but that's fine. You know what the baking look is supposed to look like. But yeah, I mean, honestly, even if you just want to read this, not for the recipes, but just for the stories, it's really fun and cute. and I think it was a good introduction for me to a lot of different world folk tales, because that's something that I always really enjoyed. And I mean, it's just interesting to see a bunch of cooks being really clever and outwitting basically whatever obstacles approach them, and it's fun. And just for kicks and giggles, let me read you a riddle. Where did all the riddles go? Ah, okay. As I walked through a field of wheat, I picked up something good to eat. It was neither flesh, meat, nor bone. I kept it till it walked along. You got it? Okay. I'm gonna show the answer in 3, 2, 1. An egg which hatched into a chicken. Let's do one more before we head down to the kitchen. How many loaves of griddle bread can a giant eat on an empty stomach? Do you have your answer? 3, 2, 1. Only one. After that, his stomach isn't empty. Har har har. Alright, so let's head down to the kitchen and test out some of these recipes. Alright, so I am in my kitchen. I have my Gryffindor apron on and we're ready to get started. So the first thing I am actually going to do is there's a recipe in here for making butter. So I'm going to try it, and if it fails, well, it fails. Alright, for this you're going to need a bowl, preferably an electric mixer of some sort, and your heavy whipping cream. That's pretty much it. Alright, so this just says to start beating until lumps of butter start to form. So stopped it real quick. You can see, like it said, until lumps of butter form, and then you can pour off the liquid buttermilk. So I think I'm going to turn it just a little bit more just to make sure it's all kind of incorporated, and then I will pour this off into something. All right, this is what the final product looks like. If I touch it, I can definitely feel the butter, which is kind of wonky, and you can see the buttermilk. So I'm just gonna try and strain this real quick into my little container. Actually, I should probably put it in a container that has a lid. I will grab one and we will be right back. Alrighty guys, I'm back. So as I showed you on the close-up, I have my butter lumps and my buttermilk. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to strain it. I think I might put it in a cheesecloth and try and strain it out that way, or have like, well, this is technically a flour setter. Might work though. This is about experimenting. Should be fun. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead. Okay, so I think if I want to pat it down so I can make sure I'm getting all of the buttermilk. You see, it's just this kind of like white liquidy stuff. This is in no way cheaper than just buying butter. In no way. But it's kind of fun. I've never made butter before. So just get those little lumps back in here. But it says the next step in our recipe is to press the lumps of butter together. And then you can add a pinch of salt, mix, and shape it into a cake of butter. But since the recipes we're doing are mostly desserts, I think I'm going to leave it unsalted so you don't get any weirdness. So I've got a bit of parchment paper. I'm going to go ahead and put the butter here in the parchment paper. Alright, so I did talk during this section, but between the crinkling of the parchment paper and everything, it was just way too loud and you could barely hear me. So basically I am just pressing and squeezing, getting out any remaining moisture and like forming it together until it forms a big lump of butter. Yep. So I don't know if you can see it. This is my cake of butter. I was going to try and form it into an actual cake, but that seems like way too much work. I mean, it feels like butter, it looks like butter, it smells like butter. I made butter. I don't think that's a cup of butter though, honestly. So I think, let's see, I think it made probably about like a quarter cup, well, no, more than a quarter. It's probably about a half cup butter out of like a cup of heavy cream. So it's far, far cheaper just to buy your butter. But this was a fun experiment. This is an up close look at my cake of butter. All right, so I have a buttermilk for something. I have my cake of butter. I'm just gonna wrap it for now. Alright, so the next recipe I want to try is actually the Carefree butter cookies, which is part of the very first story in this book. This book is like an older book, so it mostly calls for like hand mixing stuff, so just for the fun of it, I'm going to mostly follow that. So I will get everything together and then show you guys. we're going to take your 2 sticks of butter, and it says to mash them with a spoon until soft and smooth. I think I'm going to go ahead and just whip them because I just used the mixer to whip the butter. After we're done with the butter, we're going to add the sugar and mix well. So it calls for 2/3 of a cup. It does not say packed, but I'm going to assume packed because how else do you serve brown sugar? Mix well. Next, I'm going to stir in my egg yolk. 1 egg yolk. There we go. So I'm just going to mix that in. Next, I'm going to go ahead and sift my flour. So it calls for 2 cups of sifted flour. So it says to sift it with the baking powder. So I'm going to do the baking powder first. So technically you should spoon this, but I never do. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the full cup. This is a half cup, because we only have 1 cup measure. It's always dirty because we only have 1 cup measure. So. Alright, so next we're just going to slowly add in the flour. Stir it together. Don't do that. This is how I get my arm workouts now. I just bake stuff. So that's that. It's pretty much incorporated. So this is what the final dough looks like. It's very stiff. Kind of looks like chocolate chip without the chocolate chip. Tastes like a poo. Alright, so this is what it looks like. I just have a cookie scoop, so that'll give me about a teaspoonful. Sorry that's not quite in focus. I'm going to figure out where to set it up because as you can see it fell with my previous setup, so give me a half sec. Alright, I have about this much dough left, and I made 15, was 15 plus 12? No, 27, duh, I made 27 cookies. Alright, it says bake in the oven until lightly browned, which it says is about 20 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes and just double check because every oven's different. Alrighty, so while my cookies are baking, I'm also going to be making Griddle Bread, which is from the 2nd or 3rd story. I think it's the 2nd, yes. So this is the one I said was about Finn the Giant's wife Una. We'll need these ingredients. I have already sifted our flour once because it calls for sifting the flour twice, which I've never seen that before. I'm also cutting this recipe in half, so I listed the ingredients for half, so if you want to make a full batch, go ahead and double the recipe and you'll have the normal full batch. But we only made half a cup of buttermilk from our butter earlier, so I didn't want to have to make more butter to make more buttermilk or make fake buttermilk. I just didn't feel like it, so I just had the recipe. And gluten-free flour is a precious commodity, so 2 cups is more than enough. Okay, so I'm going to sift it again. Then I will just pour it back into our original bowl. It says add the milk gradually, mixing with a fork as you wish. Oh, I was supposed to sift it with the salt, sugar, and soda. Well, this is also part of baking. Sift it with. I'm not going to try sifting salt and sugar, so we're just gonna this is seeming quite dry. So I'm thinking I may need to add a bit more milk. So if you don't have buttermilk, a good substitute, and I'm just gonna make a little bit. A bit of milk, so I'm gonna do half cup. So I will take half a tablespoon. Pour in, yeah, it's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and stir it with my tablespoon. So just stir it, make sure it's incorporated, and then you let it sit for a few minutes. So 4 minutes left in my cookies, so that should be good. Okay, so here is my finished griddle cakes and Carefree butter cookies. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a test. They turned out really well though. I ended up using about probably 3 times as much buttermilk as I called for, but I blame that on the gluten-free flour because usually you need a lot more fat and a lot more liquid to make the same consistency because it doesn't have the gluten to kind of bind everything together. But they still turned out really well from what I could see. So now we will taste. Okay, sorry, my camera battery died and my dog is barking, so I will now try the griddle cakes, which are a little bit tough without a knife, but they're all dirty. So, those are really good. I like those. We'll definitely make those again. Yeah, those are the first 2 recipes. Alright, hello my precious little dragons. Yes, I said my intro because it has been like a full month since I filmed the first part of this video. I am going to be baking. My last recipe that we're going to be doing is Jim's chocolate potato layer cake, and then it comes with chocolate butter icing. So as you can see, I have all my ingredients prepped here. Okay, so for this recipe, you are going to need 2 sticks of butter. You are going to need 2 cups of sugar, 4 eggs. You are going to need 3 ounces or 3 squares of unsweetened baking chocolate, and I have cocoa and some extra butter in the fridge just in case I need to make more unsweetened cocoa. You're going to need 1 cup of cold unseasoned mashed potatoes. You're going to need a cup of sour milk, which I used almond milk, but you can use normal milk. 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We're gluten-free, so I'm using a gluten-free one, so hopefully that won't affect the cake too awful much. 1 teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 a teaspoon of nutmeg. And then for our frosting, half a stick of butter. We're going to need 2 squares of unsweetened chocolate. I think this comes with 6, so I should be okay, maybe. If it isn't, again, we're going to need 2 cups of confectioner sugar. Oh crap, I forgot to grab that. 2 cups of confectioner sugar. You're going to need a 1/4 of a cup of hot water, which I will get at that point. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. Wow, I really didn't grab my stuff. A teaspoon of vanilla. Woo! Let's get baking. The story that this goes along with is, it's like the longest one in the book. It's called Dwarf Longnose, and it's basically this like folk tale about a boy who got cursed by a witch, and he lived for 7 years as like a squirrel cooking for her, and then when he finally got out, he didn't transform back into his former self, he transformed into a dwarf, and so like his family didn't recognize him, and so he became a cook in King's Castle, and it like follows his whole story. It has a happy ending, as some folk tales don't. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about this. It should be fun. Let's get started. Preheat the oven to 350. Okay, so we're going to mash the butter with a spoon and blend in, oh, well, I don't have to do that because I have a mixer, which is always fun. So we're going to take our 2 sticks of butter. Butter. It's still a little cold to be cold room temperature, but I'm not waiting any longer. Technically, there are like hacks to like make it act like room temperature, but I'm just, you know, we're just doing this for fun. It doesn't need to be crazy fancy. I just want to say I made a cake with potatoes in it because potatoes are my favorite food potentially because they create all sorts of great things. And blend in sugar gradually. Okay, I need cups of sugar. Okay, so the mixture looks like butter and sugar, which is good. That's what we want. So we're gonna add in our eggs. 1 egg at a time. It says crack eggs 1 at a time. Are people super ambitious in cracking like multiple eggs at once? I still have 4 whole minutes left. That's awesome. Oh, I forgot to melt the chocolate. Melting the chocolate is an important step. Alright, so this says 3 squares. I'm just worried about this on the microwave, so I'm going to move you off of the microwave while I melt these. Come with me on a journey to the other side of the kitchen. Stay there. What does that even look like? Ah, I stepped in the dog's water. Lovely. That's just what you want. Step into the water. Ooh, I need to sift stuff. Ooh, I love sifting stuff. Save that for later. Does anyone remember like that Sweet Life of Zach and Cody episode? Where like the chef was going on the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody episode where the chef was going on like a diet and he like saved a single chocolate chip as a snack for later, and he was like staying with the twins and he was like, I'm saving this for later. It is later. I used to quote that with my siblings literally all the time.
I save the rest for later. It's a later.
Okay, we're back. I have melted chocolate, so dripping chocolate everywhere. All right, so adding melted chocolate, potatoes, and sour milk. It just looks separated because that's what homemade buttermilk does. I shall grab a cup of the potatoes. All right, the cup of the potatoes is grabbed. Now we can cut it up. Alright, so I am ready to start our second part. My cakes are cooling in the fridge, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on our chocolate butter icing. I just melted our chocolate. So we're going to combine our half stick of butter and our chocolate. Oh, I forgot to. It doesn't say to shift the confectioner sugar, but I think I'm going to because that just seems like a smart idea. Okay, so my frosting is done, and as soon as my cakes are chilled, we're going to transition over to the table so I can ice the cake, and then we'll try it. Alright, so we have our 2 cakes. They are cooled. I'm just going to go ahead and them up, and then we will be able to start icing. So you guys will get to speed through it and get to the cake part, and I have to suffer through just smelling it for a few minutes. I got some strong tea to cut the sweetness of the cake. So I'm going to cut it real quick and then we will get ourselves a slice. I forgot to grab a fork. Well, it's rather late, so I don't need a big slice. So here's what the cake looks like. It's just like a standard kind of chocolate cake. The crumb looks really good. It baked well, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, I'm excited to try it. It looks like the middle of that cake maybe isn't completely cooked all the way through, but that's okay. It's just me eating it, so oh my goodness, I'm so excited. That is really, really sweet. Like it's just this nice, rich chocolate cake. Which is why I have my strong Scottish breakfast tea. Don't judge me on my Scottish accent. The tea helps. It is really good cake though. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed there's potatoes in it. But I bet that probably like helps with like the moisture, that's the word. I'm happy with this. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and do my outro down here because I don't feel like setting everything back up upstairs in my room for like a 1-minute outro. We get tea, cake, and kitchen outro, which is fitting. So what do I think about Clever Cooks? Like, I think it's a good book because, I mean, like I said in the first part of the video, it has just a bunch of really fun, short little fables, fairy tales, folk tales. I mean, it's just kind of classic. They all have this theme of, it's all curated around a theme of just cooks that are clever, they use their wits. There's riddles and poems and recipes that actually make really good food, so I mean, there's not a lot not to love. So yeah, if you can find a copy of it, I would definitely suggest picking one up, especially if you like to bake and like folktales. I think it might be right up your alley. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, so I am going to go ahead and finish my cake and tea. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful, lovely day, and thank you so much for joining me with this video that's been like a month in the making just because quarantine laziness. But thank you all so much. I love you all so much. Stay magic, keep reading. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye!